What's up, guys? So last week I put out a video on my recommended audio interface for recording videos for YouTube. If you didn't happen to catch that video, there'll be a link down in the description. But maybe you're not looking into getting an audio interface just yet and you've been looking at USB microphones. Even then, there's a ton of options in the $50 to $150 price range that it can get very overwhelming. Well, I'm here to help. I've been playing and recording music for the last 20 years. I'll put up some photos for proof. And I have learned a thing or two about audio along the way. In this video, I'm going to be covering the two major categories of microphones used for recording vocals, which are condenser microphones and dynamic microphones, as well as the difference between an XLR and a USB microphone. I have the exact same microphone in an XLR form and a USB form that we'll be putting to the test towards the end of this video. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you some simple tricks that you can use in OBS Studio or in Davinci Resolve in order to get the best sound quality out of your microphone. It's always best to get your microphone settings right from the start, but there are some simple tricks that you can apply that will help you along the way. So if that sounds useful to you, I suggest that you stick around to the end of this video. I put out a video every Sunday on PC and gaming tech, so if you're interested in more videos like this one, please consider subscribing below. So there are two major categories of microphones that are used for recording voice, which are going to be condenser microphones and dynamic microphones. So first, we're going to be talking about dynamic microphones. So an example of a dynamic microphone is going to be the Xlr SM57. A more common dynamic microphone for broadcasting would be the Xlr SM57B or the Rode Podcaster. I don't have either of those types of mics handy, but the Xlr SM57 displays similar qualities to those other mics. So a dynamic microphone has a cardioid polar pattern, and what that means is it's going to primarily pick up noise that goes directly into the microphone and won't pick up much noise from the sides of the microphone. So this can be really good for reducing any ambient noise that you have in your room, maybe from the fans in your computer, from your air conditioning, or from the street. Another difference between a dynamic and condenser microphone is that a dynamic microphone is going to have a smaller frequency response. So you're not going to get really clean high end that you would from a condenser microphone, which is okay if you're just recording voice. But if you're doing something like recording an acoustic guitar or other instruments, you typically want those higher frequencies to come through. The final difference is going to be that a condenser microphone is overall less sensitive than a dynamic microphone. So that could be beneficial because you won't pick up as much of the background noise that we talked about when we were talking about the cardioid polar pattern of the microphone. However, you are going to need a powerful audio interface in order to get the volume levels out of this microphone that you desire. So now I'm going to demonstrate the polar pattern of this microphone that we just talked about. So now I'm talking directly into the microphone. Now I'm talking off to the side of the microphone. Now I'm talking directly into the microphone. Now I'm talking off to the side of the microphone. So you can see that the volume is greatly reduced for noises that aren't going directly into the microphone, which can be great for reducing the noise from your background. So the next category of microphone that we're going to be talking about is the condenser microphone. I'm using a condenser microphone right now, which is the Technica AT2020. I have a USB version here. I'm currently using the XLR version hooked up to my audio interface. So this microphone also has a cardioid polar pattern, but you can see the way the microphone is made that it has a much greater area that can pick up sound compared to the dynamic Xlr SM57 that we just looked at. So what this means is you're going to pick up more sound from your surroundings, but you're also going to be able to position your mouth further away from your microphone and be able to pick up your voice very well. The other difference is that a condenser microphone is much more sensitive than a dynamic microphone. So you will pick up more background noise, such as the fans in your computer or your air conditioning. And that's one of the things that you'll have to fight with this microphone. So the closer you can position yourself to the microphone, the more you can reduce the input volume of your microphone and the less background noise you will get. But if you work in a controlled environment and record in a controlled environment, then you shouldn't have a lot of noise that this microphone is picking up regardless. The other advantage of a condenser microphone is that it's got a much wider frequency response than a dynamic microphone. So personally, I record my acoustic guitar with this microphone as well as sing into this microphone. And it gives me a much better, more rounded sound than something like a dynamic microphone would for those purposes. So now we're going to do the same test that we did on the dynamic microphone with my condenser microphone. So now I'm speaking directly into the microphone, and now I'm speaking to the side of the microphone. Now I'm speaking directly into the microphone, and now I'm speaking to the side of the microphone. So the difference shouldn't be quite as drastic. So in the end, how do you make the choice between a dynamic and a condenser microphone? Well, one of them is just going to be your preference in the sound of the two microphones. Do you like a more natural sound? Then go with a condenser microphone. Do you like that more broadcast-friendly sound? Then go with a dynamic microphone. The second thing is going to be your ability to control the noise in your surroundings. Do you work in a guaranteed quiet space? Well, then a condenser microphone may be a good fit for you. But if you can't control the noise levels in your surroundings well, then I would absolutely go with a dynamic microphone where you're going to reduce the noise coming from your surroundings being picked up by your microphone. And finally, what is the use of your microphone? If you plan to do any singing or music recording into your microphone, then a condenser microphone is absolutely the best choice if you're only purchasing a single microphone. So finally, I'd like to touch on the differences between an XLR microphone and a USB microphone. So first, when you're talking about the quality differences between the two microphones, if you have an XLR microphone that is the Audio-Technica AT2020, for example, which I'm using here, and a USB microphone, which is also the Audio-Technica AT2020, which I have here, there's going to be a very discernible difference in the audio quality coming from these microphones. So if you're using them for the purposes of recording a musical instrument or your vocals, you may get a slightly better result from the XLR version, but for just recording your broadcasting voice, you're barely going to notice any difference. When it comes to cost, so when you purchase an XLR microphone, you need to also purchase an audio interface with that microphone. So there is that additional cost. I just looked up the cost of the XLR and the USB versions of this microphone on Amazon. Currently, the USB version is going for $150, while the XLR version is going for $100. But with this microphone, I also purchased a $170 audio interface. So the overall purchase cost of this microphone setup was significantly more than the USB version. However, when you look into being able to upgrade your setup, having an audio interface where you can swap out the XLR mic is more advantageous. So in this video, I used both my Audio-Technica AT2020 and my dynamic Shure SM57 using my same audio interface. So that is a one-time cost where you can then go upgrade your microphones. Whereas with the USB microphone, you're going to be paying for the additional cost of the USB microphone every time that you upgrade it. If we look into the ease and setup of these types of microphones, an audio interface is inherently going to be more complex because it does have more inputs and outputs. So if you need that kind of thing, it's great. But if all you're doing is recording your voice for broadcasting, then a USB mic might be all that you need. And so this Audio-Technica mic has an input for your headphones on the back, and then it's got two different dials in the front, one for determining the volume of your headphones, and then a second for if you want to monitor your microphone directly out of the microphone into your headphones, or if you want to monitor your computer through the microphone's processing. So now I want to test the two different types of microphones for you. Both of these microphones are the Audio-Technica AT2020 as mentioned. So now I'm speaking into the XLR version of the Audio-Technica AT2020. And now I'm speaking into the USB version of the Audio-Technica AT2020. Now I'm speaking into the XLR version of the Audio Technica AT2020. And now I'm speaking into the USB version of the Audio Technica AT2020. So to my ears, I can't notice much of a difference in these two microphones, and I think both of them will treat you very well. All right, guys, so finally, I want to show you how I have my audio settings set up for my microphone in OBS Studio. So I record all of these videos as well as stream using the OBS Studio software. So that's what I'll be demonstrating in this video, but this should apply to any software that you're using that has similar features. So if I go to my microphone input source down here in the audio mixer and click the wheel icon, and I can go to filters. And this is where I'm going to set up the different effects that are on my microphone. So first I have noise suppression. I have my suppression level set to minus 20 decibels. I found this is a good set point for my personal microphone and my environment that I'm in. And what this suppression is going to do is take out kind of any humming or buzzing noises that are in the background. And this will also apply while you are speaking into your microphone. It's going to take out those really quiet humming noises. So this is good to remove some noise. Next, we're going to have a noise gate. So what a noise gate is going to do is it's going to completely cut off your microphone when the input into your microphone is below a certain threshold that you will set. So I have mine set to minus 46 decibels. And the way I set this was by actually listening through my headphones at when I could hear my microphone cut off and I could hear nothing in the background. And then your open threshold is when it will start picking up noise from your microphone that you want to hear. So you have to kind of play with these two sliders to figure out the best point where your voice is always being picked up when you want it to be picked up, and that the microphone shuts off at a correct time to where you can always hear your voice, but you don't hear the things in the background. So these settings are what I found good for my environment, again, in my microphone volume levels. But you may need to play with this. This should be a good starting point for you. The next is a compressor. And so what a compressor is going to do is it's going to flatten out the volume of your voice. So if you're talking really quiet 1 second and then you're talking really loud 1 second, it's going to take those different volume levels and kind of equalize them so that the volume throughout your recording or your stream is consistent. These are just the default settings that OBS loads when you add a compressor to your source. The fourth one is going to be gain. So gain is just going to increase the overall volume levels of your microphone input. And what you may find is that when you add noise suppression to your microphone, your overall microphone output may be quieter than it was without the noise suppression. So I had to go in and add 2 decibels of gain to get my volume back up to the level that I wanted it at. And finally, I have an EQ on here. This is done through an external VST plugin. If you guys have any questions about those, you can leave them in the comments. And if you want me to make a video about using VST plugins in OBS, I'm happy to do that. But EQ is something that isn't necessary. It will just help to either remove or enhance high-end or low-end frequencies that are being picked up by your microphone to your personal liking. All right, guys, so I've got Davinci Resolve open right now. This is the free video editing software that I use to edit all of my YouTube videos. It is awesome and it is free, but this should apply to almost any video editing software that you may use. So assuming you didn't do editing to your audio within the recording program that you use to record your audio for your video, you can go ahead and you can probably do that in your post-processing software within your video editing suite. So in Resolve, we have this tab called Fairlight, which has my audio mixer for all of my audio tracks that go into my finished video. And what I did was I added some effects from this effects panel into just my master track of my audio. So it applied it to every single audio track that was in this video, which for this purpose was fine because all of my audio tracks were recorded with me sitting in front of my microphone, so they were all roughly the same. And you can see what I did is I added EQ and compressor just like I showed you how to do in OBS Studio. So this is a pretty common EQ for voice recordings where you take away some of those low end frequencies as well as some of those high end frequencies. And this is just going to give your voice a more natural sound and a less harsh sound that you would by not adding any EQ to your audio recording. However, you may be able to get away with not doing any EQ to your audio and it could be fine. The other thing I added is a compressor here. And the compressor, as we talked about before, is just kind of equalizing out all those volume levels as you're talking quiet and then talking louder. The final thing that I added to my master output is a limiter. And so a limiter has a couple functions. So first, you can either increase or decrease the overall volume of your recording. And you may want to do this if your recording is very quiet to match the volume levels of other YouTube videos. The other great thing about a limiter is it will limit the audio volume of your track. So if for some reason in one part of your video it is very quiet, and then in another part of your video it gets very loud, this will take those very loud moments and bring them down to whatever level you want. And that's done through this threshold. And so I have my threshold set to -3 decibels. You don't want to go up to 0 decibels ever. It's going to result in clipping. And so this just kind of allows me another way to equalize the volume of my recording over the course of the video. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of this video. It definitely means the world to me. If you like this video and you found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing down below. I release videos like this Sunday of every week. And if you want to hang out with me after, you can find me over on Twitch at the same name, Weston SM. Thanks, guys.